need a new bed. There's nothing particularly wrong with this bed. It's fine, but it's old and it wasn't designed for the space. It was designed to sit up against a wall on one side, so the right side of the bed is completely exposed, showing all of the storage underneath. It's also very high, so I kind of have to do this little jump onto the bed whenever I want to get on. So I moved into this apartment about 5 months ago, and I mostly focused on the living room and my desk setup. To be honest, I hardly spend any time in my bedroom. It's really just a place for me to sleep, so everything you see here has kind of just been thrown together with old things that I've had and some random found things along the way. I'm also in the process of selling my converted van that I built out last year, and with that going on, as well as building this new bed frame, it got me thinking about the idea of home. And what is home? I find it really interesting that home can mean something so different to so many different people. My idea of home is going to be completely different from somebody that had divorced parents in 2 separate homes, somebody that moved around their entire childhood, or even somebody that was adopted. And now for me, being an immigrant in another country on the other side of the world, I'm questioning what is home to me. So I've lived in 4 different places throughout my life, this being my 4th place right now. Let me run you through it real quick. So I was born in Pretoria, South Africa. Wait, I lived there for 2 years, so I guess I've lived in 5 different places, but I only lived there until I was 2. So I lived in Pretoria, South Africa until I was 2 years old. Then my family moved down to Cape Town, South Africa, where my parents are still living in the same house today. That is home for me. It's interesting because even now living in another country, I have my own apartment, I have my own home. I will always think of that as my home. That is the place where I can go back to and feel comfortable and feel safe, and that's my family home. Obviously that had a big impact on my life. It had a big impact on who I am, and it had a big impact on how I keep my own home today. After living there for 18 years straight, I went off to university and lived in some dorm rooms. So I guess that's kind of a new home. What I'm classifying as home is like living somewhere permanently for a extended period of time, not just like staying with a friend for a weekend, or even staying at a place for a week or 2, but like moving all your stuff to that place for a while. So I lived at my university for a couple of years, then moved back home. I then made the giant leap over the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas, landing in New York City, where I lived for a year before COVID happened and shut that all down. But living in New York was an experience like no other. I'm so happy that I did get to live there and experience the New York lifestyle. After COVID, I moved out to Connecticut with my ex-girlfriend's family and stayed in that house for about 2 years before finding my own place here, still in Connecticut. And this is really the first place in my life that is truly my own. I can put whatever I want on the walls. I can leave dishes in the sink if I want to. I can choose when and where I want to play music. It's great. It feels amazing. Oh, I forgot to mention that I did van life for about 3 months last year. So technically a van was my home for a while as well, but it wasn't a permanent structure. But we'll consider it. So call it 6 places. The van is a very important part to the story though. That's what started my whole thinking of what does home mean. Living life on the road is completely different to having a permanent base. And while it gives you so much freedom, it also creates its own challenges. And so that really got me thinking down to the core of what makes a home. Let me give you a quick tour. You've already seen the bedroom, so I'm gonna start off in the kitchen. This is my very small, very tiny kitchen. This is my poster of vegetables. This is a prep table that I made from old farm fence wood. It's kind of janky, but I really love how it turned out. This is an old map of Africa from the 1800s. Some green onion growing in a glass I got from a Red Bull job. This cactus I got from one of my friends that moved away from Connecticut. A sticky note with the things I try to do every day. Moving on to my living room / dining room / office space. This was one of the first things I made when moving into my apartment. It took me a couple days, but I'm super proud of how this desk turned out. It's got one side for all my laptop and computer work and one side for analog stuff like typewriting and drawing. This is a really cool water plant that is absolutely thriving. A drawing I did of a skull back in 2019. This wooden running man, a stack of unread books on my desk, more books, and yet even more books. I have way too many books. This small little drawer unit that I found at a thrift store in Vermont. This lamp from the 1940s that I spent way too much money on, but I absolutely love it. My journals from 2018 until now. My collection of old cameras, my field journal, and custom micron pen with a 12 and 0.1. This map from this one time I went to Block Island. My 2023 journal and hard drives. My typewriter that I got from an estate sale. More books. My TV unit setup. My guitar. My dining room table. My 3 skateboards. This delicious Monstera plant. And this awesome circle mirror that I found. This is all a reflection of me. All the things I love and how my brain works. This all kind of feels like home to me, but as someone that's so far from the homeland I was born in, someone that's so free from the perspective to work almost anywhere in the world, and with the ability to choose where I want to live, home is quite a out there concept. So I really feel like I'm looking for a deeper connection to what home really means. And I feel like I'm not the only one. I feel like there are many young adults out there struggling to find their idea of home. With new digital nomad lifestyles, the ability for more and more jobs allowing you to work from home, and even the romanticized travel lifestyle, having a permanent, solid home is seeming to become a thing of the past. Not only that, but if you're someone in your 20s, I'm sure that you've noticed the prices of houses lately.
Prices have been going crazy over the past year.
Households are growing, but not in the way you might think. It's been found 1 in 4 people, 26 to 41 years old, live with their parents.
And they are not nearly as affordable as generations past. More and more people in their 20s and even into their 30s are living in small apartments purely because they can't afford to buy a home. So are apartments the new home? Is an apartment considered a home? This also then means that there's more young people still staying with their parents in their homes, not really having the ability to create a home of their own. With less and less people owning homes and more people choosing to live nomadic lifestyles, what makes a home home? So my bedroom's fine. It just doesn't make me feel alive. It doesn't match the rest of my apartment that I want to be spending time in. It feels very much like my own. This just feels like a space that I'm kind of disconnected to. It's interesting because I think as a child, your bedroom is your safe space. It's your only space that you have to make your own. And so you make your bedroom, if your parents allowed you to, you make your bedroom as special as you can. You put posters up on the wall. You can paint the walls a certain color, and you can do all sorts of things to make your bedroom feel like your bedroom. And I don't feel like I have that in my bedroom. I don't feel like I have that special connection. Okay, so this is my basic bed design. I'm pretty happy with it. It's super simple. I think I'm also just going to repurpose some of the old wood from the old bed frame. It's actually a very similar design, except it's going to be a lot more elegant, and I think it'll fit into the space a lot better. So I just measured out the space in the Forerunner because I'm going to go buy plywood, and unfortunately it is not going to fit in there, so I'm going to have to take the van. There she is. Luckily I still have the van. There's somebody that's going to come look at it next week and hopefully pull the trigger to take it away from me. But it's going to be very helpful and has been very helpful in terms of getting wood and bigger supplies. That is one thing I'm going to miss about this. But this is the van. Beautiful. This was actually so this really was my introduction to woodwork. I did all of this myself without really knowing anything about woodwork, about carpentry. about how to build anything, but I had always wanted to do van life, and like anything in life, I believe that can't doesn't really exist. Can't just means that you're cutting yourself off before you even give yourself a chance. So I set out, I bought the van, and I just learned from YouTube, and I just went and did it. Nothing in here is perfect, but it all works, it's good enough, and it turned out pretty amazing. It served exactly the purpose it needed to, and that's kind of the same idea I'm going into with this bed design. I'm gonna miss this van, but it's done me well. Alright, let's get some more wood. Well, that didn't last long. The definition of home is a place where one lives permanently. And I went into this a little bit more on what does live mean. Live means to stay alive. So home is a place where one stays alive permanently. And this is kind of a tricky definition to deal with because I am very far away from Cape Town right now. I don't live in Cape Town anymore, but I would still call Cape Town my home. So I don't really think that definition is 100% accurate. So what did home mean from a more ancient perspective? So the earliest form of human settlement was in a cave. The idea of the caveman. Obviously, this is a natural shelter, natural protection from the cold. Especially during winter, the colder months where it would rain and snow, the caves provided a lot more protection from the elements than living out in the plains and building more natural structures. But as we began to get smarter and move out into the world, there were some areas that just didn't have caves, so we resorted to then building tents out of animal hides. And quickly we moved on to making bricks out of mud and clay and building structures like that. We then quickly started using a combination of elements like rocks and straw to add some more protection, insulation, and depth to our homes. And then it didn't take too long before we started making houses, temples, and palaces out of stone and marble, before eventually settling on the more common home, building it out of wood and bricks. So obviously when we were foragers and hunters and gatherers, the idea of home wasn't really something like it is today. The cave was just a place where they used to sleep. I think for them, they would consider home more as the homeland. I think they had a much more holistic approach to life, and especially home, especially you see it in the Native Americans still, where there's no individual ownership of a home. It's the collective ownership, the tribe ownership, the collective being in that land, in that space, and that is what you call home. The earth, nature is what you call home. And that brings me into thinking about animals as well. And do animals have a home? Yes, birds have nests, and foxes have dens, bears hibernate in dens as well, chipmunks burrow under trees. Each animal has its own variation of what they call home. But I think it all forms part of the greater ecosystem, part of nature and part of Earth. I don't think they can lay individual claim to a home like we do in our capitalistic modern world. Yes, they can still be protective and territorial about their homes, about their spaces, but at the end of the day, I think animals realize far more than we do that nature is forever changing. and nothing is permanent. And it's this idea of impermanence of everything that doesn't really work with the idea of home being a place where you permanently live. I think our idea of a permanent home really came into being with the agricultural revolution. Before then, people would move around and follow different animals and different herds for hunting. And it was only when we started farming and we needed to settle down and grow foods in one place and keep tending to the fields that we needed a more permanent home structure around those fields. Obviously, this grew from the 1 or 2 or 3 households to entire villages to bigger towns to then cities and now countries, where it's filled with suburbia across the land that has nothing to do with farming anymore. And so the home, the house, has gone from something that is based in nature, impermanent, a collective, to being something that you can own, something that's individual, and something that's disconnected from everyone and everything else. It's interesting because this even brings up the idea of community, and I think community is dying. I know one of my neighbors, but I don't know the other 2 neighbors, and I guarantee that in a city, almost no one knows their neighbors. We're losing touch with this shared collective of being, this shared experience of living life, living in community and helping one another, being there for one another. I'm not saying it has to be a communist community, but I think even just knowing your neighbor, knowing when they're sick, knowing if they need anything, that culture is dying, especially in the Western world. And that's kind of sad. So it's all starting to come together, but man, it's so hot today. I think it's like 33 degrees Celsius, which is close to like 95 Fahrenheit. So being out here sweating and lifting heavy wood is not the funnest, but also I'm having a lot of fun, so can't complain. So another point that I wanted to touch on is the thing of money and consumerism. Like, money is not really an issue for me. I could easily go to IKEA and buy a new bed frame or order one off Amazon, but that's not the point. The point is to make something with my own 2 hands, to learn new skills and fail at them so that I can become a better, more capable human being, able to support myself if ever I need to. I think it really just comes down to me and hopefully inspiring other people to really connect with everything that you have in your life, to be a conscious part of everything that you create and everything you consume. It's so easy to buy something off Amazon, but you have no connection to that. It's not customized to you. You didn't put hard work, sweat, blood, and tears into that bed frame. And so you probably won't appreciate it as much as something you made with your own 2 hands. Just like my van and like my desk. I see that desk every day. I use it every day, and it just makes me so happy. And I feel so proud of what I've accomplished. And to be able to practically use something that I made is just so inspiring to me. And I hope this inspires some more of you to use your hands and start making your own stuff. And even though you might have the money, I'm very lucky that I have access to a shop like this as well, so I know it is a privileged thing, but do what you can to make your own thing. If you can grow your own food, if you can preserve your own food, it's gonna taste so much better than any grocery store, any fast food chain. And that's gonna be better for you, make you feel better, make you live better, literally give you a better biology in life, so that you can just keep being better and better and better and feeling healthier and healthier and healthier and more alive and have more life energy within you. So it's just this constant loop that then healthy food can feed into making furniture, which feels good for me, which ultimately is more sustainable than buying cheap plastic fake wood from Amazon that's destroying the earth. There's shipping costs involved, there's packaging involved, there's plastic, there's all of these things that go into it. Plus you don't get to appreciate the beauty of what that thing is actually doing for you. Okay, so pretty much built all the boxes I need to build. It's now just a matter of putting them all together, attaching it, and then throwing a mattress on top. So I'm going to keep it in separate parts and then transport it back home and finish the rest of the building up there. But right now I just need to get some water. Wow, I feel like a new person right now. The ocean is definitely another place that feels like home. My house is now a disaster filled with multiple bed frames spread throughout my apartment. But we have an empty room, or a pretty empty room at least. okay. So it's just all placed here, it's not screwed together yet, but it's looking pretty good. One thing I didn't account for was the skirting board over here, so that adds like an extra inch at least, which pushes this in over here, which is really annoying. It'll all be fine, just kind of annoying. And now I'm sweating again. Okay, it took some wiggling, but we managed to get it in. It's a little bit tight at the top end there, just because the side cabinets are a little bit closer than I wanted them to be. But it works. It made it in. It might just be a bit of a struggle changing the sheets though. We'll get there.
That's what she said.
Michael, please.
There he is.
Please.
Mwah! There he is.
An actual regular-sized height bed. This is amazing. Oh, and I have side tables. What a day. Oh, yeah, this is pretty sweet. I wish I got this angle from the beginning as well. That would have been a cool switch up. Okay, so I think this might be my favorite part of the video. This is the crux of this video, is what makes a home home. Traditionally, home has always been a place that protects you from the outside world, protects you from the rains, the winds, the cold, the snow, the big animals trying to eat you. All of these external dangers that don't have an effect on you when you're inside the four walls of your house. So I think feeling protected and feeling comfortable is a really big part of home. It's a space where you feel safe, where you can come back to and recoup and recharge before you go back out there into the world and take on life's challenges. Obviously, my first thought I had is a home is a place that needs to have a bed, somewhere where you sleep every single night. But by that logic, going camping in a tent with a blow-up mattress could be a home, or going to stay at an Airbnb could be a home. And yeah, you could call that a home for a little while, but we're trying to figure out what home means at a deep level. Some say that it's the people that make home, the community that you're surrounded by. And yeah, I think people do make a big difference. I think family makes a big difference to what you call home. Most people will say that where they were born, where the majority of their family is, where they grew up, that is home for them. Because that's where they feel comfortable, that's where they feel protected, that's where they feel safe, and that's where they feel they have support from family and community and people around them. I think it's difficult to call somewhere that's super isolated from the world and community home. Not that it can't be, but I think it makes it a little bit more challenging. Is it the things inside the home? Another interesting thing is, this wasn't my home. When I first came in here, there was nothing in here. The walls were an ugly yellow color. It was dirty, it was gross, but over time, I've cleaned it up, I've decorated, I've added my things, and now it's starting to feel a bit more like my home, like me. And so, is it things that make a home? The things that we fill inside of four walls? Or maybe it's the stories of these things, because it's our things. It's the things that we love, the things that we've chosen to be in our personal spaces, and the things that best represent us and the way we think about the world. So then maybe home is the customization, the personalization of a space, making it unique to you. Maybe it's the scars, the scratches, the stains, all the bumps and bruises and stories that your house has to tell. A collection of memories. Or maybe it's a combination of all of these things. I think home is a place that houses the stories of people and things. People and things that are close to you, that are meaningful to you. And a space that makes you feel safe, comfortable, and protected. A space where you can come back, rest, recharge, and go out and take on the world for another day. And it's this that allows a person to feel like home, or an inanimate object like an old car, or a book. Or even something that has nothing to do with the building you're sleeping in. It could be the woods or the ocean. Home is a place where you can express yourself to your fullest extent. Home is a place where you feel most you. We have done it. The new bed is in place and installed, and it feels so nice. So nice to fill the space with a bed that actually fits. I feel like it just makes the room feel so much bigger, so much more comfy, so much more homey. And even just this morning when I woke up in the bed, I spent like another 45 minutes just reading with the lamp next to me, and it was so nice and cozy. It's rainy outside, so definitely feels a lot like home. It's far from perfect, I know that. It is, there's so many cracks and bumps and little imperfections throughout the bed. But at the end of the day, the point is that I made it, and I'm really proud of that. It's gonna be something that I get to use every single day, something that I get to look at and be like, I did that. I made that with my own 2 hands, and now I get to bear the fruits of my labor. My bedroom is also still far from what I want it to be, far from what I envisioned for the final of this video. I still have this old IKEA unit here as my dresser, which doesn't look the best, doesn't really fit the vibe, but it's what I have for now, so I'm using it. Maybe that'll be another video in the future, is building a dresser. But the space as a whole does feel a lot more like home, does feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more safe, and it feels like a place that I actually don't mind spending time in.